You do not escape a toxic relationship just by walking away. You escape it when the person who once broke you can no longer touch the way you see yourself. Most people think freedom from toxicity begins the moment they leave, but the truth is it begins long before that, in the quiet awareness of what you will no longer allow. Some wounds are visible. Some are carved deep into the way you think, the way you trust, the way you love. And until you learn to name them, you risk carrying them into the next chapter disguised as normal. The danger is not only in staying too long, it is in leaving without learning. It is in running so fast from the pain that you forget to look back at what almost destroyed you and ask why it got that close. Without that reflection, the same patterns can appear in a different face, the same manipulation in a softer voice, the same erosion of your worth in a prettier disguise. Toxicity is not always loud. Sometimes it is a slow leak of your confidence, a constant questioning of your instincts, a subtle shifting of your boundaries until you no longer recognize yourself. That is why the first step in navigating away from it is not a new relationship. It is a new standard, a standard that is built on self-trust, on boundaries you do not negotiate away, on the refusal to accept what feels wrong just because you are afraid to be alone. This is not about becoming harder, it is about becoming clearer. Clarity is what keeps you from mistaking attention for affection, drama for passion, control for care. And clarity is what allows you to walk into the next chapter without dragging the shadow of the last one behind you. The journey begins here, in the decision to stop asking who hurt me and start asking what will I never allow again. Let your intuition lead. Never deny your own feelings. One of the most dangerous mistakes in navigating toxic relationships is silencing the voice inside you that knows the truth. Long before the breaking point, your body speaks. Your mind hesitates. Your heart feels the weight of something that does not belong. It might be a subtle tension when they walk into the room, a sudden caution in how you choose your words, a quiet dread that replaces the excitement you once felt. Too often we are taught to override this intuition. We tell ourselves they are just stressed. They did not mean it. Things will get better if we try harder. We rewrite the story so that it sounds safer than it is, because admitting the truth means admitting change. And change means facing the unknown. But denying your own feelings does not protect you. It trains you to live against yourself. Your intuition is not an enemy to be silenced. It is the earliest line of defense against harm. It remembers patterns your conscious mind tries to forget. It notices the way their words sound kind but leave you feeling small. It keeps track of the times you swallow your hurt because you fear their reaction. And when you ignore it, you give the toxicity room to grow unchecked. Listening to your intuition is not about living in suspicion. It is about honoring the signals that say something is off. It is giving yourself permission to feel uneasy without demanding proof. It is understanding that your boundaries do not require anyone else's approval to exist. And it is knowing that if you wait until the evidence is undeniable, the damage may already be deep. When you trust your intuition, you stop needing their behavior to reach a certain level of cruelty before you take it seriously. You stop explaining away the moments that made you flinch, and you start making decisions based not on fear of losing them, but on the value of keeping yourself, breaking the pattern that keeps attracting the same kind of person. Leaving one toxic relationship does not guarantee you will never meet another. Without reflection, you can find yourself drawn to the same kind of person in a different form, repeating the same story with a new name. This is not because you want the pain. It is because the patterns you carry silently are still making the choices for you. Sometimes it is a need to prove you can be loved by someone who reminds you of the one who hurt you. Sometimes it is the belief that love must feel like struggle to be real. Sometimes it is a wound from long ago that keeps calling for the wrong kind of healing. These patterns are not obvious. They live in the unspoken rules you follow, in the comfort you feel with what is familiar, even if it is unhealthy. Breaking the pattern begins with self-awareness. You start noticing the moments you feel a pull toward someone who excites you, but also unsettles you. You ask yourself whether the attraction is to the person or to the familiar role you know how to play. You question why certain red flags feel like passion instead of warning. This is where honesty becomes your greatest tool, because it forces you to admit when your heart is chasing something your mind already knows will hurt. Self-compassion is just as important as self-awareness. Blaming yourself for past choices keeps you stuck in shame, and shame keeps you from changing. You do not need to punish yourself for not knowing. You need to thank yourself for surviving, and then commit to choosing differently now that you do know. Patterns lose their power when you stop repeating them, and you stop repeating them when you choose what is right for you over what is familiar to you. Breaking the pattern is not about avoiding all risk. It is about refusing to ignore what you have learned. It is about recognizing when someone's energy feels like an echo of the past and stepping back before it becomes your future. And it is about believing that love can feel safe, steady, and mutual, even if that is not how you first learned it. What to absolutely avoid when dealing with toxic people. When you are navigating a toxic relationship, survival is not just about what you do, it is just as much about what you refuse to do. There are choices that seem harmless in the moment, but quietly give the other person more power over you. Choices that keep you locked in the same exhausting cycle. The first thing to avoid is making excuses for their behavior. Every time you explain away what hurt you, you are teaching them that your boundaries can be bent. You may tell yourself they are under pressure, they are going through a hard time, they will change when things settle. But in reality, you are showing them that there are no consequences for crossing the line with you. The second thing to avoid is over-explaining your boundaries. A healthy person respects no without requiring a courtroom argument. A toxic person will use your explanations as openings to negotiate against your limits. You do not owe a detailed defense for protecting your peace. You owe yourself the consistency to stand by it. The third thing to avoid is matching their chaos. Toxic people often thrive in conflict. They will draw you into endless arguments, emotional outbursts, and drama designed to keep you off balance. The more you engage, the more they control the pace and direction of the relationship. Your power comes from not playing the game, from staying calm when they push for a reaction, from walking away instead of trying to win a fight that only drains you. The fourth thing to avoid is isolating yourself. Toxic relationships can make you feel ashamed or afraid to share what is happening, and isolation makes it easier for the toxicity to deepen. Staying connected to people who see you clearly is not just support, it is protection. They can remind you of your worth when the relationship tries to make you forget it. Avoiding these traps does not mean you can change the other person. It means you can keep their behavior from reshaping who you are. Every time you refuse to excuse, over-explain, escalate, or isolate, you are choosing yourself over the dysfunction. And that choice is the foundation for every step forward, guarding against the habits that quietly destroy relationships. Toxic relationships are not built overnight. They grow in the small and repeated habits that erode trust and connection. These habits may seem minor at first, but over time they create a foundation of resentment, fear, and disconnection. To protect yourself and to avoid carrying these patterns into future relationships, you must learn to see them clearly. One of the most destructive habits is constant criticism. This is not honest feedback given with care. It is a steady stream of comments that target who you are rather than what you did. It chips away at your confidence and makes you question your worth. When criticism becomes the default language, love has no space to breathe. Another is defensiveness. In a toxic dynamic, defensiveness becomes a wall that blocks understanding. It keeps every conversation in a cycle of attack and counterattack. No one listens, no one feels heard, and the distance between you grows wider. Defensiveness may feel like protection, but it often becomes isolation in disguise. Contempt is even more dangerous. It shows up in eye rolls, sarcasm, mocking, or subtle expressions of superiority.
Contempt communicates not only disagreement but disrespect, and respect is one of the first things a healthy relationship requires to survive. Once contempt takes root, it poisons every interaction.
Then there is stonewalling, the habit of shutting down, refusing to engage, or withdrawing without explanation. While taking space can be healthy, stonewalling is different. It leaves the other person in emotional limbo, often used as a way to control the flow of the relationship. Over time, it teaches both people to stop trying.
Guarding against these habits starts with awareness. Notice when you use them and when they are used against you. Ask yourself if this is how you want to show up, and if this is the kind of connection you want to allow. Replacing these patterns with respect, openness, and accountability is not just about saving relationships. It is about saving yourself from the slow erosion of your own values.
The habits you tolerate today will define the relationship you live in tomorrow. By choosing to confront them, you choose a future where trust can grow and where love is not just a word, but a safe place to be. Healing yourself and setting new standards. Leaving a toxic relationship is not the end of the work. It is the beginning. The damage may not always be visible, but it lingers in the way you think, the way you trust, and the way you define love. Healing is about more than moving on. It is about rebuilding the foundation of who you are so that you never have to live through the same patterns again. The first step is to acknowledge the wound without letting it define you. You are not broken beyond repair. You are someone who has been hurt and is choosing to recover. This shift matters because it keeps you from carrying the identity of the relationship into your future. You can honor what you survived without making it the central story of your life. Then comes the work of reconnecting with yourself. Toxic relationships often pull you so far from your own needs that you forget how to hear them. Take time to listen again. Notice what brings you peace, what excites you, what feels like home in your own skin. These small recognitions are how you remember who you are without the weight of someone else's control. Setting new standards is the natural next step. Standards are not about creating an impossible list for others to meet. They are about defining what you will and will not accept. They are the non-negotiables that protect your peace, your dignity, and your emotional safety. You do not set them to test people, you set them to guide yourself. Healing also means practicing boundaries in real time, not just thinking about them. It means saying no without apology, stepping back when something feels wrong, and walking away when a situation refuses to respect your worth. Every time you uphold a boundary, you reinforce to yourself that your well-being matters. You may need help in this process, whether from therapy, support groups, or trusted friends who can remind you of your progress when you forget. Healing is rarely a straight line, but each step is a step away from the life you no longer want and toward the life you are building. When you heal and set new standards, you are not just protecting yourself from future harm, you are creating the conditions for real love to thrive. You are choosing to live from clarity rather than fear, and that choice will shape every relationship you have from this point forward. Moving toward healthy relationships after the damage. A healthy relationship will not erase the past, but it can show you that love does not have to hurt. After a toxic chapter, stepping into something healthy requires courage, patience, and a willingness to believe that a different kind of connection is possible. You do not need to rush, and you do not need to test yourself by walking into situations that feel unsafe. Healing has given you new eyes, and now you can use them to see clearly. The first sign of a healthy relationship is the absence of fear in being yourself. You do not have to measure every word. You do not have to hide parts of your story, and you do not feel punished for having needs. Safety is not only physical, it is emotional, and it is the foundation on which trust is built. In a healthy space, respect is consistent. Boundaries are not seen as obstacles. They are honored as part of loving you well. You are encouraged to grow as an individual, and your success is celebrated rather than threatened. There is no constant competition for control, and no silent battles for power. Patience is essential when moving toward this kind of relationship. You may find yourself waiting for the other person to turn into someone from your past, scanning for signs of danger, preparing for a collapse that never comes. This is a normal part of unlearning. Healthy love can feel unfamiliar at first, especially if you were trained to associate intensity with connection. Give yourself permission to take it slowly, to test the waters without abandoning your instincts. Trust will build in layers. At first, it may be small moments, like them keeping a promise or listening without judgment. Over time, these moments create a track record that tells you they are safe to invest in. You do not have to force trust. You can let it grow at its own pace. Most importantly, remember that a healthy relationship does not rescue you from yourself. It meets you where you are, but it also asks you to keep showing up for your own healing. The love you receive is meant to add to the love you already hold for yourself, not replace it. Moving toward healthy relationships after damage is not just about finding the right person. It is about becoming the right person for yourself first. When you know your worth, when you trust your boundaries, and when you believe in the possibility of mutual respect, you will recognize healthy love when it arrives, and you will have the strength to keep it. Escaping toxicity is not the end. It is the beginning of real love in reality. Walking away from a toxic relationship is not the finish line. It is the doorway. It is the moment you stop pouring your energy into surviving someone else's chaos and start learning how to build a life where peace is your normal. The escape is not the prize. The prize is what you choose to create in the space that follows. Freedom is not only the absence of harm, it is the presence of clarity. It is knowing what you will no longer accept, but also knowing what you will actively seek. It is replacing the instinct to brace for pain with the confidence to stand in safety. It is no longer defining love by how much you can endure, but by how much you can grow.
When you leave toxicity behind, you give yourself the chance to experience love without the constant undercurrent of fear. You discover that healthy relationships are not built on power games. They are built on respect, trust, and mutual care. You learn that real love is not about controlling or being controlled. It is about supporting and being supported.
This beginning is not always easy. The patterns of the past will try to call you back, not through the same person, but through the same habits, the same comfort in the familiar. But now you have the awareness to see it, the strength to name it, and the courage to choose differently. You know the cost of staying in what is harmful, and you have already paid enough. Escaping toxicity allows you to meet yourself again, to stand in front of the mirror without the noise of someone else's judgment, and see a person who is still here, still worthy, still capable of love that heals instead of hurts. And from that place you can step into relationships where you are not diminished but valued, not silenced but heard, not tolerated but cherished. The end of a toxic relationship is not the end of your story. It is the chapter where you take the pen back, where you write not out of fear or desperation, but out of truth and hope. And as you walk forward, you carry not the weight of what broke you, but the wisdom of what could never break you completely.